Good morning, everybody. It is a pleasure to be here. My name is Jeremy Harrell, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer of ClearPath. ClearPath's mission is to advance technological innovation to remove global energy emissions. And so we work on everything from scaling new technology like advanced nuclear, long-duration energy storage, geothermal, to building blocks of the global economy. How do we make products like concrete, steel, cement in an affordable and low-carbon way? And I'm really excited today to moderate this panel talking about the rapidly evolving dynamics in the energy sector. Before I introduce our panelists here today, I want to make one public service announcement. We're trying to control the sound in the room, so if folks please be seated and stay seated for the entirety of the panel to the extent possible. It would be much appreciated, so thank you all. I am joined today by four incredible leaders in this industry who are tackling these immense changes in the energy landscape. And after decades of single-digit demand, the globe is entering an era of energy scarcity to some extent, and it is driving the need for more collaboration. It's driving the need and injecting more competition into the energy sector, and it's driving governments across the world to drive towards their economic and national security interests. And we're seeing both here in the US and globally industrial policy playing a major role in those dynamics. And so I'm excited to start the conversation here with some incredible business leaders who are in the forefront of this and discuss some of the trends as they see it in the rapidly global economy. So starting from my left, we have Amanda Peterson-Corio, who is the Global Head of Data Center Energy for Google. Amanda manages power procurement, energy policy, and energy infrastructure development for Google's global data centers. We've got His Excellency Mohamed Hammadi. He's the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Emirates Nuclear Energy Company. With nearly 2 decades in this role, Hammadi leads ENEC towards delivery of the UAE's peaceful nuclear energy program. To his left, we have Tanya Ortiz-Mana. She's the president of Sempra Infrastructure, a global energy company that develops and builds and operates infrastructure for the energy industry. She leads the company's 3 business lines in the US and Mexico, LNG, low carbon solutions, and energy networks. And last but not least, Andres Gluski, the president and chief executive officer of AES Corporation, one of the world's largest clean energy providers to corporations with a focus on technology companies. And I'd like to get the conversation kick-started with Mr. Gluski. Andres, AES is one of the world's leading power companies generating and distributing electricity in 10 countries across the globe. And you're seeing significant growth because of that approach, because of the global demand that we were previously referencing, and your all's approach to advanced technologies. How have these recent trends accelerated your business expansion strategies and fueled AES's growth?
Well, thank you very much for the invitation of being here. What we're seeing is, what's really changed, I'd say, is demand growth in the US, which had been growing very slowly. So we're seeing much more rapid demand, especially coming from AI data centers. It's been a big driver of that. So AES is the biggest provider of clean energy to corporations, and specifically to data centers in the world, measured by power purchase agreements. So we're seeing a tremendous growth, and it's really what they're interested in is time to power. But I think that what's distinguished us is really working together with those clients. So rather than the cookie-cutter solution is really sitting together and seeing what you can do together. So, for example, with Google, we did the first 24/7 hourly matched long-term PPA. But that was only possible working together. So what I think has to be brought here is really intelligence to it, because we have to make better use out of our existing assets, transmission lines, power. Lithium-ion batteries are going to play a very important role. And I think there has to be realism in terms of what we can bring online when. So, for example, for the next 5 years in the States, what is in the queue, what we have the equipment, what is going to be largely renewables and batteries. Of course, complemented with gas. It's very important. And then, longer term, this can change. But it's a changing situation. It's unusual for the States. But look, operating outside, we're used to operating in countries like, say, Vietnam, where for a decade, electricity has been growing 10% per annum. So it certainly can be met. But of course, the scale and that it's not one size fits all. We have to apply really intelligence in terms of what we have, what we can feasibly achieve, and what's the timeline of that.
I mean, the key is the need for speed, right? And I think you've taken a leadership role in this industry, especially the way AES plays with the hyperscalers. And I think you've published recently on this, on that being able to build generation to meet this rising demand is really essential to the AI race that we're seeing across the globe. Can you talk a little bit more about that and how you all see accelerating energy solutions for that competition?
Well, we have a backlog today of signed PPAs. So this is actually a commitment we have to deliver of 12 gigawatts, mostly over the next 3 years. So, and we have a pipeline of potential projects in the US of over 50 gigawatts. But I think what we really need is a sort of business certainty, because these are long-term investments. And we've had a lot of, let's say, change as the administrations have changed, over the last 12 years. We've seen, different incentives and when these come on. So what we need is business certainty to be able to accelerate this and quite frankly, get the capital for these projects.
Tanya, Andres talks a little bit about the practicality here, and I think we're having a intense debate here in D.C. in the public policy area on the role of gas, and really seeing this administration lean into building out more production, but also export capacity. Can you talk about your view of how you see gas's role in this need to speed, or the need for speed to deploy new energy to meet this rising demand, not only for data centers, but also for manufacturing?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to participate in this conference. It's definitely an honor to be here with this very talented group of people. Natural gas is going to be a critical component of the energy value chain, and very particular of the power value chain in the long run. I think we've been speaking about gas as a transition fuel. A few years ago, we rarely spoke about gas. We were focusing much more on transition technologies and transition fuels. But the fact is that natural gas continues to be a fundamental component of the energy value chain. It continues to be a fundamental component of the power value chain. And I think the focus needs to be, and we're fortunately, as a North America region, sitting on very abundant, reliable, and low-cost resources that we need to use to the region's advantage. No other economic region as a whole, particularly if you compare North America to either the Asian economic bloc or the European community, has a capability of developing economic growth based on this availability of natural gas. So the question is, how do we develop that infrastructure? The challenges around building and developing linear infrastructure, whether it's transmission lines or pipelines, which, we're seeing increasing challenge. There was a debate, or there's still a debate underway as to what extent North America should continue to be an exporter of LNG. I very strongly believe, and the data shows, that North America can continue long-term to be a key supplier of global gas demand. So natural gas has a critical role to play. I think we as an industry do have a responsibility to find ways to continue to lower the methane intensity of natural gas. But I think natural gas is here for the long run, and I think North America is very fortunate to have abundant resources, and we must continue to develop this industry hand in hand with the power industry and hand in hand with AI and the largest consumers.
I think it's a perfect segue to bring Amanda into the conversation, who's wrestling with this. Obviously, Google making significant investments to scale their data centers and other operations, and playing a really instrumental role in procuring clean energy. Google has played a leadership role in the procurement of firm clean assets and clean energy as a whole. Could you talk a little bit about Google's strategy there and your view on nascent technologies that could play a significant role in meeting that demand?
Sure, thank you so much. So, as Andreas mentioned, and it was mentioned at the opening of the panel, this is a step change moment in time AI has the opportunity to unlock trillions of dollars of economic growth here in the US and around the world. And the one thing standing in the way is, can we build the infrastructure to power that, to be able to unlock that, to learn from that? So our role in the company is really to figure out, how do we do something different? How do we meet this scale at this time? You spoke about new or nascent technology. We've announced over the years a few things that we have done. Fervo is an advanced geothermal company. We've been working with them for, I believe, 5 years. We helped them with their first demonstration project, and then last year announced a scalable 115 megawatt project that we're buying the power from in Nevada. And what we're trying to do there is really send a signal that we need to build and invest in new technologies so that they can have the potential to reach scale. We also announced last year working with Kairos. They're a Gen 4 SMR developer, and we worked with them strategically to create an order book, if you will, saying we're not just going to invest in the first reactor, but look to do together to be able to develop this at scale. We continue to look for opportunities to work with and partner with nascent, firm, clean technologies, really to plant the seeds, not for this decade, but for the next decade and decades to come, so we don't find ourselves in a situation where we're always behind the ball, that we have enough firm, clean power to meet our needs and the grid's needs.
Excellent. Your Excellency, maybe a good time to bring you into the conversation here. In the U.S. here, we're wrestling with policy necessary to scale new clean firm technologies like nuclear and geothermal, and the UAE has an incredible success story building 4 reactors at Baraka, and now is taking that kind of to the next step and how you play a role in the global nuclear market. What were some of the major success factors in the Baraka story, and how are you trying to work with countries across the globe to translate that to more global nuclear deployment?
First of all, thank you, Jeremy. Thank you. I'm honored to be here with you today. And if I can maybe zoom out, then I will answer your question if you don't mind. If you look today at the demand for data centers over the last decade, it's been growing slowly and creeping in quickly. With the AI demand now, is also exponential growth is happening. So if we look at the data centers demand today, by next year, the collective data centers demand will be equivalent to the electricity consumed by Japan. That's a huge number. By 2030, the expectation of the forecast, it will be equivalent to the country of India. So just put it in a scale of perspective. And this is not to put burden on my colleague, Amanda, to find the solution, but this is a huge demand of electrons. Now, pivoting to UAE, what UAE did in the last over a decade, we went in a major change and transformation to our energy mix. We've been mainly gas generation of our electrons. We've added renewable, we've added nuclear. Today, the nuclear power plants in Baraka, they provide 25% of the UAE's electricity. That's a huge energy transition. In the last 5 years, UAE per capita of carbon consumption or per capita's carbon footprint, we are the lowest in the last 5 years. We went dramatically, thanks to nuclear as a major energy producer, 40 terawatt hours per year, compared to also the other sources of energy. So the key success has been being pragmatic, having clear policy and strategy in how to address infrastructure projects. We do major projects. We do big scale projects for the last decades in oil and gas or nuclear and other industries. And this is where UAE is very good at. Clear strategy, clear directions, and we put all the resources focused to make sure the whole system and ecosystem be successful. I'm sure you heard yesterday there was a discussion also in MGX and others also focusing now on data centers and going all the way from the chip manufacturing to data centers to AI, all the way to power infrastructure needs. And this is how we address business in the UAE in a very systematic approach. And I would like to discuss later also how we see the US market. I'm personally very bullish on the US market. There is the electrons demand from data centers and also reindustrialization of the US. And we look forward to see how we can plug in and become an effective contributing the business development company here in the US.
Let's talk more about the U.S. market. Obviously, we've seen the Trump administration make some announcements on the nuclear side, a goal of building at least new big reactors by 2030, an ambitious goal, 2050, to build here in the U.S. That complements the significant global goal that was set when the UAE hosted COP28 in Dubai, with now over 30 countries committing to a global 3x. What are some of the market signals you're seeing here in the U.S.? Obviously, we've been having a robust debate about policy. Why do you see such an exciting opportunity here in the U.S. and the market dynamics to deploy?
So today, U.S. is the top innovator in the world when it comes to AI. U.S. is number one when it comes to AI innovation. So that by itself is a great market signal. Second comes the U.S. interest to continue to be a leader on the AI and innovation of technologies. We've only seen the tip of the iceberg, by the way, when it comes to AI use, and everybody talks about it, but we did not unleash the potential use of AI. So we are seeing only the tip of the iceberg. So once the AI tools becomes much more use at scale, once AI becomes profitable, and companies start making money out of it, you will see there's much more serious demand will be lined up. There's some skeptics, there are some utilities who are still kind of in the fence, but it's coming, and it's coming very, very fast. I had a chat before the panel with my colleague Amanda. I'm a utility person, so when I look at the utility, our cycle is not 60 hertz. We are even slower than 60 hertz. We want to build infrastructure for 60 years, 30 years, 40 years. The Google-like, and if I may, they operate in 500 hertz and above. So they go on a sprint when it comes to whatever projects they do. We do think of marathons. And to build the nuclear reactors in the UAE, we proved to do it in 8 years for an asset that will run for 60 years. For the data centers or the AI ultra-scale users, they are in a sprint. And they are in competition, by the way. So whoever have the biggest volume of electrons at the right locations with proper infrastructure and regulations, they will be the leaders and will beat everybody and will become more successful. And that's why, for me personally, I see the US as the biggest market that will be successful, very successful. And the current point you mentioned about the current president who want to quadruple nuclear, and COP28 we had tripling of nuclear, and everybody says, wow, that's too much. The president here in the US announced quadrupling of nuclear, and the World Bank just recently, last week, also endorsed nuclear to be part of the financeable instruments, which is great.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Andres, to double down a little bit on that, on accelerating electrification and electricity deployment to meet rising demand. We've been having a robust conversation in DC over the last 5 years on industrial policy, seeing big bipartisan bills like the Bipartisan Infrastructure Bill, the Energy Act of 2020, the CHIPS and Science Act, and then the robust debate on tax incentives, both enacted over the course of time and then enhanced in the Inflation Reduction Act. Congress is debating some of those things now. What broadly, as you think about U.S. policy and getting to that, what you laid out of the race to deploy, what do you think is really critical for industry players like you that are trying to meet the pace necessary for rising demand?
So in the States, I'd say for more than a decade, there's been some volatility in the policies. And it's not only something like the IRA, but it's also in tariff policies. It's also like UFLPA, sort of things that have affected the supply chain. So that it's made some of the rollout, quite frankly, more difficult because we need business certainty. What I think is interesting in this conversation with AI is that AI is part of the problem, but it's also part of the solution. So for example, it happens with Google. We work together to make Tapestry, which is the first sort of digital twin of an ISO in the case. This is Chile, which has a very advanced regulator. So with that, you can actually build out the grid more efficiently. You can operate it more efficiently. So I think that, again, there's great opportunities to build things out, and we need more power. But at the end of the day, people don't consume kilowatt hours. They consume compute. they consume light, they consume heating, they consume cooling. So to the extent that we can make that more efficient by applying, quite frankly, AI and or not only advanced materials, but things like, for example, building solar farms. We have an AI-enabled robot that's actually operating now, made in the States, which right now is 2x the productivity of just a manned crew. It can get to 6x. So those are ways that we're going to make it possible to meet these very aggressive goals. And I also think it's an all of the above, because I think it's silly to think about just a technology vector. It's like, again, what people want to consume is compute. They want energy with this carbon intensity, this shape. Okay, how do you best get that? How do you best combine sources? And then there's the time frame. You know, I'm very bullish on nuclear, but quite frankly, that's something for the 2030s, when you can really massively deploy it in the States. You know, I mean massively, you know, like, where it's like 30, 40% of the new build. So that's what I'd like to say, is sort of realism and having a perspective in terms of what's the ultimate goal. And the ultimate goal is to help people compute, is to help people, you know, live better lives. And it's going to have a different solution in different parts of the world, quite frankly, because they're different prices. You know, you mentioned that, for example, the States is very blessed in certain natural resources. You know, you have to do it what makes sense for that country. So, you know, putting solar in Alaska doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, so we have to be careful about incentives that promote inefficiencies.
Yeah, an approach to drive investment into all new energy sources, and I think really important to lean in and try to accelerate some of these nascent technologies. I think new nuclear can be faster than the mid-2030s, but it's not just new generation as well. It's about the infrastructure we need to support the grid and support our energy infrastructure as a whole. So, I mean, I wanted to ask you, because Google has really leaned in on the innovation side, not only in these generation technologies, but on grid-enabling technologies, and I think you all had an exciting announcement over the last couple of days. Would you touch a little bit more on high-capacity conductors?
Yeah, sure. So I was actually talking to the panel backstage. One of the most interesting things about the job that I hold and sitting in this position is being at a tech company explaining infrastructure. And one of the things is it's really hard to explain to a tech company how our infrastructure hasn't changed and how we deliver infrastructure and the way that we evolve. We don't use dial-up internet. We don't talk on rotary phones, yet our grid fundamentally looks the same as it did 30, 40 years ago, and we're still using the same technologies we did back then. There's a lot of things that we can do with our existing grid infrastructure, as Andreas mentioned, to have it be much more efficient without having to belabor permitting reform, as we love to debate in these circles over and over again. Like, we can actually do more with our existing grid, whether that's Tapestry, which we announced with PJM, partnering with PJM to figure out how can we do better, how can we bring AI to long-term system planning and obviously the interconnection queue, which continues to be a challenge. How can we make that grid smarter? It's the smart grid of 2007, but we're in 2025. But how can we actually do that now? And then just this morning, we announced that we're partnering with CTC Global to really think about how can we bring advanced reconductoring to our grid. This is simple hardware that we can use on existing lines to increase the capacity without having to build new lines. So we're launching today an RFI to look at where are there opportunities in the U.S. where this could unlock capacity, and how can we work together and be a part of it, helping to pay for technical studies, helping to pay for training and trained electricians, and also as a customer, how can we create the avenues where we can actually incentivize this innovation and to bring that to the grid and move it along the line much faster. Because as you mentioned, generation, obviously at the end of the day, we're going to need more generation, but there's a lot of, I don't want to say low-hanging fruit, but there's a lot of capacity still available on our grid. We're just not using it efficiently.
Yep, absolutely. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, if may I add a point, then that's very important when it comes to the grid and the grid design, electrons. Electrification, we've been talking about it for over a decade now, and it's happening. So between cars and the demand for electrons. I was using, by the way, the Gemini app, AI tool, and looking at what are the best books were written here in the US in the Congress Library. And I stumbled across a book talks about Benjamin Franklin in 1751 or so, when he was experimenting with electrons, electricity. So this is how old this technology is here in the US. And transformers are transformers, wire are wires. You cannot digitize them, to make them to go and become more efficient or make them more efficient. And this is a bottleneck and a challenge we'll have to address through regulations, through some kind of innovation of technology, but we have to physically build the assets. You have to put the cables, you have to put the wires, you have to put the transformers, you have to put the generators. There's no magic silver bullet to make it happen. And it takes a lot of effort, a lot of coordination, a lot of hard work to make those assets happen. And recently, there's innovation of technologies, by the way, recent technologies, where the same wire, you could strengthen them and they could take more power through one single corridor. But 25%, by the way, operating of those transmission lines. This needs to happen. And money is required, regulation is required, and also the will to make it happen. The good news on the US market today is the companies like Google and others who are very seriously in need of those electrons. And those guys won't wait. They will hire staff from utilities, and they're already hiring. That's Google and specific other companies that I'm aware of. So they're moving fast. And if the utilities doesn't move, they will move. And that's why we are here in the US to see how we can plug in as a developer, as a project integrator from the UAE who've done the nuclear projects in the UAE and be able to repeat the success we've done in the US market, because frankly, the opportunities are there, and we are happy to be here.
Tanya, how are you all approaching this, especially in this moment where you're seeing the administration wanting to put significant energy behind administrative regulatory reforms, accelerate LNG export approvals, and build out more infrastructure? I mean, you all play a critical role in the North American gas infrastructure.
Okay, thank you. I think Andres made two very important points. First, this should be an all of the above solution. It's not one source versus the other. We need more of every source of energy. The question is, how do we do that, I would say, effectively and efficiency, right? I've heard my colleagues talk about the efficient use of the existing grid, the efficient deployment of new infrastructure, but very importantly, efficient consumption. It's something we talk about, but I don't think we're doing enough in general. And I'll speak to North America in particular. I think there's a lot more that can be done for the effective and efficient use of energy. Now, with regards to permitting reform, what we need, the companies like Sempra that invest in energy infrastructure, we run 30, 40, 50-year scenarios. So we think long-term, and we're always optimists. We don't give up. We don't think short-term. We think long-term. So the one thing that we need is certainty, reliability, consistency. We work in different jurisdictions. We work in different countries and in different continents in the world. And the rules may vary, but what we look for is consistency. We'll find a way, because energy infrastructure is so fundamental to any economy, that we'll find a way to make those investments. So what we're looking for is certainty and consistency today in North America, but in any region in which we invest.
I would want to go back a little bit to the nuclear conversation. You referenced the Kairos partnership and your confidence in the procurement of their reactor design moving forward. What led Google to that decision? What made Google confident in the predictability, the regulatory environment, and the pace of technological innovation to be a first mover as a procurer of new nuclear?
I guess I would say there's a lot that we cannot be confident in. That's outside of our control, but what we can be confident in is if we don't start making bets and planting the seeds today, then it will not be there. And I think one of the big things, I mentioned this before, trying to explain in a tech company why it's so hard to do all these things that we need to get done on the infrastructure side. We have to be the force that shows, this is what taking a risk looks like. This is what innovation looks like. If we don't start to do these things today, it will not change, right? And so I've worked in power and infrastructure my entire career, and we are a very conservative, the system is designed to keep the lights on. That is first and foremost the most important thing, especially for customers, but it doesn't allow the right value incentive for change. And so what I can say that we're confident in is that the world in 10, 20 years will not look the same as it does today, and anyone that thinks it does is wrong. Okay, so we have to make sure that we're prepared for that world 20 years from now, and that looks like making investments, taking risks. Are we sure things are all going to work out the way we want? No, but that's part of it. And so that's what we're trying to do, is really seed that.
Your Excellency, is that the same view you all have at the global market? You talked a lot about your excitement here in the United States, but how are you looking at emerging markets, and do you see those rapidly changing dynamics and the need to take a big bet on nuclear?
Yeah, the demand for electrons and electrification started way back, and this is something won't stop, and we've seen the growth globally happening. There's countries with almost double-digit cost per kilowatt hour, like 20 cents per kilowatt hour. That's very, very expensive. Some countries, over 700 million people without electrons, and those people will come and consume electrons. And that's an opportunity also to help those countries and help those societies to grow and prosper. And also at the same time, it's also business opportunities with those high costs of electrons in those countries. So for us, we see huge potential in Europe, in eastern part of Europe, also in the western part of Europe. US is a great market, and again, I'm very, very bullish that we will have business opportunities here in the US, and we will invest, and we will partner, and in the next 5 years, we will hopefully generate electrons with partners who are serious to capitalize on those business opportunities. And if I may pick up what my colleague Amanda mentioned, the difference between the digital companies and the infrastructure companies, the pace of requirements is different. But when you have, I would call them golden assets, once you invest and you have electrons that be generated, I guarantee if it's in the right place, will be definitely consumed, and that will be a golden asset that everybody will go after and be able to capitalize on. So again, I'm very, very bullish and look forward to doing business.
Tanya, how about you on the export markets? And I know you all just signed a recent agreement with JERA on LNG exports. So you're playing an instrumental role, and there's a lot of attention here in the U.S. Can you talk a little bit about the export opportunity?
No, we're very bullish about the export opportunity on LNG. I mean, North America has proven to be a reliable supporter of global LNG. We're very competitive with regards to price. We can fund the projects, and I'm not talking about Sempra in particular, but the North America LNG players have been able to fund. We've been able to innovate. We've been able to capture the long-term agreements with a high quality off-takers. So we're at the front of this wave. We see a lot of short-term demand in Europe, without a doubt. That was triggered partially by the situation in Ukraine, but that we see as ongoing. But there's also an underlying demand in Asia that needs to be met. Something very particular about our LNG portfolio at Sempra is that we have liquefaction facilities under construction, both in the U.S. Gulf Coast, but also in the Mexican Pacific, where we're taking gas from the Permian Basin into the Mexican Pacific that will be supplied into Asian markets. So we continue to see very strong demand, and we have not even scratched the surface on LNG demand in the developing world. Those economies, if you look at their demographics, if you look at economies that are increasingly becoming industrialized, there's a pent-up demand for natural gas in those regions, which have to convert from coal, they have to convert from wood in some cases, and have the opportunity to transition to natural gas. So I think, the demand, again, today, it is Europe and Asia, but I think there's pent-up demand, I mean, in the developing world and I'm sure will be obviously coupled with very interesting opportunities for power generation.
AES is actually one of the biggest buyers of U.S. LNG in Latin America. And it's really transformed those economies because, take, for example, Panama. It used to be totally reliant on hydro. So if you had a drought, power prices would spike. Now with U.S. LNG, you have stable prices over the long term. The same thing happened in the Dominican Republic. So what really interests me is how you can combine these things, again, to have the optimal result. So about 15 years ago, AES really invented lithium-ion batteries for grid stability. We started it off in Chile. But that's a little bit like a hammer. So people tend to think of it, well, this is just for renewables. No, it's not. It's a transmission asset. There's a project in Germany to bring offshore wind from the North Sea down to Bavaria over existing power lines in Germany. And you can do that with batteries. You can also, again, do, round-the-clock renewables. But I think what's very important is how you combine natural gas, you combine batteries. You can use your gas plants differently if you combine it with batteries. You can even have nuclear plants work more as peaking plants if you're able to store some of the off-peak power and inject it in with batteries. So you don't think about it, but it's a multi-purpose tool. And getting back to what Amanda was saying, look, our transmission lines, that copper is probably operated at 50% of capacity, right? If you read Václav Smil, you're going to see we don't have enough copper to build out based on traditional ways of doing things. But again, using batteries, by using dynamic line rating, by reconductoring, you can make much better use out of the existing lines today. So those are the solutions we need now. Our, let's say, clean energy business supplying data centers is growing at more than 25% a year. And what they always talk to us is time to power. And so we have to use what is there, the new technologies, what's available, and not try to define it a single technology or, quite frankly, a solution, which may take some time off. All these solutions are good, but we have to think about the time frame.
Well, I really appreciate the perspectives we've heard today. What I heard kind of three key themes here. We need an all-the-above approach. We need to deploy what we can today and make big bets on what we know that we're going to need here in the future. Demand is driving these investments not only today, but driving some of these bigger bets, knowing what we're going to need for the future of the global economy. And I'm excited to see how each of you and your companies ultimately continue to make those investments and drive our global energy future. So I want to thank you each for taking time out of your busy schedules to participate in the Global Energy Forum today for a great conversation and look forward to future ones. So thank you.